Hey everybody, welcome to Dick Punch. Yes, if you're in your car with the windows down, listening to this podcast on the way home from work, yes, you are listening to Dick Punch. Thank you very much. And welcome to today's episode. So, what we're talking here about is the whole Netflix thing. And it's funny, we mentioned it. Right, it aired, I think the morning after, because it was late night, didn't want to get into it. Morning after, got on the mic and had a few things to say. So, part of the problem with Netflix and WWE is that it was a crazy hype train. And if you heard our first episode where we kind of touched base on things that we were expecting. And, I believe a lot of that was, we were expecting a lot of, special matches, different matches, celebrities, maybe different interactions, whatever. And for, I believe for the most part, we got a lot of what we were expecting. However, we didn't get maybe the quality or, maybe the best end of what we were expecting. So, we wanted some cameos and some guest appearances from, some wrestlers, some, legacy wrestlers or whatnot. So what did we get? Well, we got The Rock. Everybody was expecting The Rock. And I believe Rock, The Rock has some, probably shares or stock or whatever. He has some financial interest in WWE. So, he's going to be there when he can, right? Because it makes him money. So I think that was probably a very positive thing, seeing The Rock there. But aside from that, it would have been nice to see a Triple A, not Triple H, but shit, it's been so long. I can't remember who I wanted to see. Okay, forget it, man. It would have been nice to see other people. Just put it that way. Oh man. I had a few people in mind and it just escaped me right now. But you can kind of see most things have been, The Rock. I think X-Pac was there. There were, celebrities that were basically people with Netflix shows. Netflix bosses and their families were there. You know what it really seemed like? It seemed like a work Christmas party. If you've ever been to a work Christmas party, it's like a work Christmas party. They hyped it up. They brought in a bunch of old people that you can't remember. Hulk Hogan. You bring in Hulk Hogan that nobody liked. They did a lot of these gimmicky things where you think they didn't really think it through to what people would appreciate or what people would like best. Right? So they brought in a lot of, it was cheesy gimmicks. It was very, very long. And I thought it was me getting old. Right? And if you saw the cover, the episode cover from the last video, it's practically people in beds falling asleep watching this wrestling match. And it was boring. Right? I don't know about you, but the problem with this type of wrestling is that an hour of it per match is insane. The problem is there's not enough excitement. You can't do enough that makes anybody want to sit there for an hour and go, oh yeah, I want to watch this. Because I get it. Wrestlers hate when you say wrestling, WWF wrestling, WWE wrestling is fake. They hate that. Oh God. So scripted, staged, whatever you want to refer to it as, right? You have to understand that it's not like UFC where you're fighting somebody till you beat the piss out of them and they're bleeding and they could barely figure out where they are. It's not like boxing in that regard. It's not like other, sports. These guys, 99% of the time, they wrestle a match and they come out and, you're going to come out sore, you're going to come out bruised. And we're not saying these guys aren't performers and aren't doing great, stunts and tricks and stuff like that. But you're not really kicking somebody square in the face. You're not really slamming a chair in somebody's face. You're not really gouging somebody's eyes out. You walk away from the match, you hop in your car and you drive home. We all see it. We see the backstage. We know what it's about. We're not going to spoil the magic, but we know it's not, beating people to death. So it makes no sense to make a match for an hour or an hour and a half or 45 minutes when you only really need, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes per match, really, because you don't need to kick out, do these artificial, pin and kicks for how many times, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times a match. You know, the whole I've fallen down and I need somebody to, come and help me. And you're wasting 5 minutes here with the falling out of the ring and don't know where you are. The other guy comes out the ring and holy cow, it gets, it's to a point where you know what's going on. It's almost like it's completely scripted. So you know what's going on. You know when things are going to happen. And I mean, yeah, okay, we know it's scripted. But what I mean is, that it's kind of written like in that movie context, right? So every match that night, I knew who was going to win because that was the draw of it. Like it's getting so predictable because you say, well, they're leading up into a match. They're giving, certain priority in certain matches and certain whatever to certain people. So you kind of start cluing in of what's going on. So very quickly, especially in a match that's an hour long, you're really understanding that nothing that you're watching is anything that's going to make sense in terms of, I guess the previous, how do we put this, like the previous path of where these guys are going. Right. So, it is a really, really tough one to watch here because, you're watching that. Oh yeah. Okay. This guy's going to win. Like who's going to win? Oh, Solo or Roman Reigns. Like, come on. Who do you think was going? That was a match that you could have just done, without all the hype, 15 minutes, right? You knew Roman was going to win. It just dragged on. It was ridiculous. It was so many parts where they were just wasting time to drag it on. So, I mean, that match was ridiculous. A lot of this Kevin Owens stuff, ridiculous. It's a sleeper. A lot of these women's matches, ridiculous. So you're starting to get into this thing where they're not really putting in some of the guys you want to see. They're just trying to build some new hype around some old guys, right? So you do see some matches. You see motorcycle machines or whatever they're called, or machine wars or I don't even know, machine gun mayhem. I don't know what they're called, right? There's guys you just don't know what they're called. The gimmicks, it's just hard, right? They're just, I don't know. It's just so stressful here talking about this because you start realizing, and here's my situation. I'm sitting here and, I have a really good concept for a lot of this sports entertainment for this wrestling, right? I think a lot of people have this concept. We've been seeing, and in this space, if you look at the podcasts and the YouTubes and whatever, a lot of people are divided on this whole Netflix thing and Triple H and where WWE's going. I mean, it is really popular. It's amazing right now to see how popular it is. We're at a point where, as I've mentioned before, my entire family likes watching Netflix, watching WWE. They like watching Netflix too because that's what they do. But they like watching WWE. They find entertainment. I think the women in my life find it like a soap opera. So they like the soap opera aspect of it. They like a lot of the women's matches. My wife and my daughter love women's matches and getting to know some of those stars. But, I find a lot of it's just, it's boring and repetitive. There's a few guys that are really good that you want to watch. There's some, a few women that are very good and you want to watch. They have good charisma, good matches, a few good storylines. The Wyatt Six stuff, like that was not really fun. I didn't find that to be interesting. Getting, when you're in wrestling, you have to either perceive, it's hard because it's almost like burning a candle at two ends. You're trying to tell people that it's not fake, it's not scripted, it's real. Like there was, I think it was Austin Theory, was it, or Grayson Wallace, or one of these guys. They were on this talk show and the guy was goofing around the talk. Oh yeah, well, you want to wrestle a bit, and and the guy was getting mad. This is what we do. This is real. This is real. And I see him on, I see another thing. I think they had an interview with him on Netflix or on YouTube. Everything's Netflix nowadays. They had him on YouTube, and he's doing an interview, and he's like, "Oh, that guy was a real dick, and I should have really beat him up, and I train hard for this, and it's not fake, and blah 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 blah." And like at the end of the day, buddy, if it wasn't fake, you'd be in UFC, like at that level. So you have that. I understand some of these guys are actual like wrestlers that actually wrestled like Olympic wrestling, like Kurt Angle was, or the other guy there, right? So you have had some actual real wrestlers, but I mean a lot of guys, and I don't want to knock it, but a lot of guys are just guys that they've gone to the gym, they've watched a lot of wrestling, and they want to be wrestlers too, and they've become wrestlers to a small circuit tour, eventually get signed, and they're doing this wrestling. But if you were to take a boxer against Austin Theory, or a UFC fighter against Austin Theory, I mean, you're obviously the guy's going to lose, right? Because you can't just fake like punch people, like, and I I don't like getting into this, as I said, right? I've said this probably a million times. It's hard doing any talking about wrestling and not getting into this aspect of it, but that was kind of, for me, that was kind of low class. I know the guy was fooling around on the talk show or whatever, but you're going to get so upset with it, but you don't even connect. Like, you're not even connecting punches in the ring. You're just kind of, you're deflecting. It's all about making it look real without doing it. So, I mean, the acrobatic aspects and there's certain parts where, yes, you're making contact and whatever, but Jesus Christ, when you're not really making contact for half your stuff, for any actual damaging hits or things that would be causing injuries. I mean, come on, don't give people this thing like you're fucking a dangerous menace to society, right? Like you're going in the ring and smashing people to bits. Like, it's not true, right? So let's stop that. Anyways, just getting back to things, and I don't even know how we lost the hinge on that one, but getting back to whole Netflix and YouTube being Netflix, everything Netflix. Wrestling, we're at a point now where I think we're going to have to step it up. You're getting to a point where you have so many people in NXT. You're trying to push all these people in SmackDown and Raw. You're trying to build superstars. You can't build superstars if you don't have enough time for them. And Triple H just said recently that with 200 plus or whatever it was stars, it's hard for them to give them all time at once. And that is true. I mean, he's correct. But what you have to do is really, play your game right. And I remember, I think it was, the earlier WWF, or, and that was probably WWF days. And earlier, so what they used to do, if I can recall, was they'd have the main matches. So maybe you'd have a Randy Savage Hulk Hogan match, but you also had a Jim Bob and a Bob Jim match that was about 10 minutes, and then you had back to another real match. So I think you have opportunities to maybe, mix it up a bit. There has to be something that that can be done. It's tough right now. A lot of the matches they have, it's pretty much equal time, equal time to men, equal time to the women's matches. So that also makes it a bit different. I see sometimes some of these matches, to be honest, you can look in the audience and you can see that there's no cheering. And so, funny enough, there was another guy on YouTube, and he was in the audience, and he usually videotapes these shows he goes to. And one of them he was at, I'm watching, and it was one of these matches, one of the women's matches, and I mean, it was dead silent. And it's funny because on TV, you believe that every match is loud and people are cheering, and it's like, when you watch those old movies of cockfights or something, right? Like, people are cheering and go nuts, and it's a crazy environment. But this guy was showing And he didn't do it on purpose. He's just showing the match, but or showing the whole event. But this particular match, it was like dead silent. And you look around, and the people in the front rows that are usually cheering and holding up signs and going, they're checking their phone, they're relaxing, they're whatever. So now are you losing value in some of these matches where not only is it a match you're kind of not interested in, it's a match you're really, really not interested in. And even for the viewers at home, how do you measure the people that just get up and say, well, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to start, doing my other things. At a 3-hour show on Netflix, I find myself, I don't want to sit there for 3 hours. So if I have to get up, I'm getting up during those kind of boring matches. So you're not kind of saving me at that point, because if you have an hour-long match, even if it's a hour-long match against, two top performers, I'm only sitting there for maybe, 15-minute intervals. I'm getting up, I'm doing something else. It's getting boring, right? But then at the same time, some of the women's matches or the no-name guy matches or whatever, I'm going to just get up and walk away as well. Some of the tag team matches, I'm going to get up and walk away as well. So I may be tuned in for 3 hours, but I'm not watching it for 3 hours. It's on my TV in the background while I'm doing stuff. Even at 11 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, I'm finding stuff to do because I'm bored. I can't sit there for 3 hours watching random people fight, watching shit I'm not interested in, watching really whack storylines. It's not really what I want to be doing for 3 hours. And I think that's part of the problem. It's just not that show. The Netflix Raw show was like having somebody sit there and just tell you, as I said, it's like I work with, hey, we signed deals, our budget is this much, we spent all this money, we did all these things, look at all these banners, look how amazing we are. Do you know that you're on Netflix right now? We're on Netflix. Look at all these celebrities. They have shows on Netflix. Look at all these old wrestlers. These are the only guys that are still alive that we could bring back. Here they are. Come on, guys, let's go for this. I don't know. It didn't do it for me. I just was not a big fan. But is it the Netflix? I don't know. The Netflix, I think it's just the hype. What killed everybody was the hype. So much hype, and it was all show and no go. They hyped it so much and didn't deliver. They under-delivered, right? Under-delivered. Hulk Hogan. Who would have thought, out of all the people you could have possibly brought, you brought Hulk Hogan? Like, who does that? That was the dumbest thing. You could have actually brought somebody that made sense. If you brought Mankind, if you brought some other dude that wasn't that guy, I mean, there's all sorts of rappers out there that are still alive. I think, I mean, wrestlers out there, right? Bring them out there. Like, I don't know. Not happy with that one. Now, SmackDown is a bit different. SmackDown now, I think in US or certain US markets, it's SmackDown on USA Network still. And for Canada, SmackDown is on Netflix. Everything's on Netflix in Canada, in the Canadian market. Part of the problem is that it's the same show. I guess it's not a problem. It's the same show. It's the same SmackDown as it was before. So it's the same. So are we going to see Monday Night Raw get dialed down a bit tomorrow, or is it going to be a crazy event? Anyways, we will find out.